My brother got my fiancé, expecting. Then my parents begged me to smile for the photos. My name is Nate. I'm 30, from Phoenix. I grew up in a family where peace was the highest value. Not honesty, not fairness. Peace. Pause. My older brother Dylan was the golden child. He was the one who just needed time. The one my parents described as misunderstood. And I was the one who was reliable. Beat. If you've ever been the reliable kid, you already know how this goes. Your reward is usually more responsibility. Pause. When I was 26, I was engaged to Chloe. We weren't flashy. We had a small apartment, a shared Costco membership, and a wedding folder on my laptop labeled October. I thought I was building a normal life. Beat. Then, on a Monday morning, everything shifted because of something tiny. A notification sound. Pause. Chloe had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. And I heard it 2 quick chimes, then a longer one. I wasn't trying to snoop. I wasn't hovering over her phone. But the screen lit up, and the words were right there. Your appointment has been confirmed. Under it, a clinic name I recognized from when my cousin had a baby. My chest tightened. I just stood there holding my coffee, thinking, why would Chloe have that appointment? Pause. When Chloe came out, towel on her hair, she saw my face and stopped walking. What? She asked. I said, did you make a doctor appointment? She froze. Then she smiled too fast. Yeah, I was going to tell you. For what? I asked. Chloe's eyes got glossy instantly. I'm expecting. I remember my brain trying to celebrate out of habit, like it wanted to do the right reaction before it processed reality. Beat. I sat down. Okay, that's okay. When did you find out? Chloe rubbed her hands together. Last week. How far along? I asked. Calm voice. Slow words. She hesitated. Not far. A few weeks. Mini cliffhanger. Soft. The hesitation wasn't about math. It was about courage. I didn't accuse her. Not yet. I asked, can I come to the appointment? Chloe nodded quickly. Of course. Then she added too casually, Dylan knows a good clinic. He recommended it. I looked up. My brother? Chloe's cheeks flushed. It's not weird. He just knows people. Here's the thing. My brother didn't know people in healthcare. He knew bars and gyms and how to talk his way out of trouble. Pause. That night, I called my mom. Not to confront. Not to explode. Just to listen. She answered cheerful. Hi, honey. I asked, did Dylan tell you Chloe is expecting? Silence. Beat. My stomach dropped. You knew. Mom exhaled like I'd inconvenienced her. Nate, please don't do this. Do what? I asked. She lowered her voice. Make it ugly. I said, Mom, is Dylan involved? Another pause. Longer. Then she said the sentence that cracked my whole idea of family. Whatever happened, Chloe chose Dylan. You need to accept it. I couldn't speak for a second. Not because I didn't understand. Because I did. Pause. I asked, so you're choosing him? My mom said, sharper, we're choosing the baby. Don't be selfish. Human interjection. To audience. If you were me, right there, what would you do? Because every instinct in my body wanted to drive to Dylan's place. But I knew something. If I exploded, I'd become the story. So I did the opposite. I got quiet, beat. I opened a folder on my phone called Receipts. I screenshot my mom's call log. Then I texted her so I'd have it in writing. Mom, to be clear, are you saying Dylan is the father? 3 minutes later, she replied. Stop texting. This is family. Handle it privately. That wasn't a denial. That was confirmation. Pause. The next day, I met Dylan at a coffee shop near his gym. He showed up wearing a clean hoodie and a calm smile like he'd practiced. He sat down and said, Bro, I didn't want you to find out like this. I stared at him. So it's true. He held up his hands. Listen, it wasn't planned. It happened once. I kept my voice steady. I don't need details. Dylan leaned forward. Chloe and I have a connection. You're always working. You're always tired. You don't. I cut him off. Stop. This isn't a debate. He sighed like I was being unreasonable. Then he said, Mom and Dad think you should walk away gracefully. Walk away gracefully. Like I was leaving a party early. Pause. I said, You're my brother. He shrugged. And she's carrying my kid. Mini cliffhanger. The way he said it confident, entitled, made me realize he thought he'd won something. I stood up. I'm canceling the wedding. Dylan's smile twitched. Don't punish Chloe. I looked at him. You already did. That night, Chloe sat on our couch, knees pulled up, crying. I'm sorry, she kept saying. I asked only one question. Is it his? Chloe nodded. I think so. I breathed in slowly. Then we need to separate cleanly. No drama. She looked up. Your parents hate me. No, I said. They don't. They're going to protect Dylan. They'll protect you if you make him comfortable. Chloe's face crumpled. She whispered, Your mom told me to keep it quiet until after the appointment. There it was. The plan. Pause. That group text hit like a slap because it wasn't just private betrayal anymore. It was a public rewrite. Pause. My aunt replied with heart emojis. My grandma said, A blessing. Cousins asked when the shower would be, and I sat there looking at my phone, realizing my family had decided on a story where I simply didn't exist. Beat. I didn't respond in the group chat. Instead, I called my dad. Dad answered, serious. Hey, buddy. I asked, Dad, are you okay with this? He paused. Nate, we're not doing sides. I laughed once, quietly. You already did. Dad cleared his throat. Dylan made a mistake. Chloe made a mistake, but the baby is innocent. I said, so am I. Dad's voice tightened. Don't make this about you. Mini cliffhanger. When someone tells you don't make it about you, it usually means they've already decided your feelings are inconvenient. The next week was a blur of logistics. I canceled the venue. I ate the deposit. I returned gifts that had already arrived. I slept on the couch because the bedroom felt like a museum of a life that wasn't real anymore. Pause. Chloe moved out to her sister's place. Before she left, she handed me her spare key and said, I don't want your parents involved. I nodded. Me neither. But my parents involved themselves anyway. My mom showed up at my apartment unannounced with a grocery bag like she was dropping off soup for a cold. She walked in, looked around, then said, You look awful. Thanks, I replied. She sat down and said, I need you to be mature. I stared. Mature how? By not telling people, she said. No Facebook, no gossip. It makes Dylan look bad. Human interjection. Notice the wording? Not, it hurts the family. Not, it hurts you. It makes Dylan look bad. If you've lived with a golden child dynamic, that sentence is basically the whole childhood in one line. I said, Mom, I'm not posting anything. I'm just living. She leaned forward. Then prove it. Come to dinner Sunday. Smile. Let everyone see you're okay. I shook my head. I'm not doing that. Her eyes narrowed. So you want to punish us? I want space, I said. Mom whispered like she was negotiating. We'll help you financially. We'll help you get back on your feet. Just don't make this messy. I blinked. I have a job. I pay my bills. She waved her hand. Not like Dylan. You don't understand what he's dealing with. Mini cliffhanger. My mom was acting like Dylan was the victim of something he did. After she left, I sat at my table and did something I'd never done before. I wrote down dates. Exact dates. The day I heard the clinic notification. The day my mom admitted she knew. The day Dylan confirmed. The day the group chat announcement went out. Pause. Because I could feel it coming. That future moment when someone would say, that's not how it happened. I wanted a timeline. A real one. Then the next escalation arrived. A letter mailed to my apartment. From my parents. It wasn't a lawsuit. It wasn't that dramatic. But it was formal, typed, and cold. It said they wanted me to return family property, including my late grandfather's watch that my dad had given me at 18. And it also requested I reimburse them for wedding expenses they had contributed. They hadn't contributed anything except opinions. Beat. Mini cliffhanger. That's when I understood this wasn't only betrayal. It was punishment for not cooperating with the cover story. I called my mom. Why are you asking for Grandpa's watch? She said calmly. Because you're not acting like family right now. So the watch is conditional, I said. She snapped, don't be dramatic. I said, put everything in writing. Email me. Then, I hung up. That night, Dylan texted me. Bro, return the watch. Don't make mom cry. I screenshot it. Then he sent another message. And don't think you can tell people I stole your life. Chloe chose me. I stared at that line for a long time. Then I replied with one sentence. Do not contact me again. Mini cliffhanger. Saying that felt powerful. But it also felt like stepping off a cliff because when you stop playing your family's game, they change the rules. I blocked him. 2 days later, my dad called. Different tone this time, controlled. Nate, he said, we need you to sign a document. I laughed, tired. Sign what? Dad hesitated. It's to correct the venue contract. There's a tax thing. I said, email it. He did. And when I opened it, it wasn't about the venue. It was a release stating I would not make claims or damage reputations related to Chloe's situation. A gag order. From my own parents. Pause. Human interjection. If your parents asked you to sign something like that, would you sign? Because I didn't. I forwarded it to an attorney. Her name was Miss Alvarez. She read it and said, "Do not sign. Also keep every message." So I did. I want to be careful here. This part is not about teaching anyone to do anything wrong. It's about what I learned the hard way. When people feel entitled to your silence, they sometimes feel entitled to your name too. Pause. When I saw that credit inquiry, my first thought was, mistake. My second thought was, Dylan. I froze my credit the same day. It took 20 minutes. It was boring. It also made me feel like I could breathe again. Beat. Then I called my dad. "Did you run my credit?" I asked. Dad sounded offended. "Of course not." "Did Dylan?" I asked. He paused. "Why are you accusing your brother?" I said, "Because my credit was checked in your area, and I didn't do it." Dad's voice turned sharp. "You've become paranoid." Mini cliffhanger. Paranoid is what people call you when you start noticing patterns. Miss Alvarez sent a formal email to my parents. "Do not use Nate's personal information for any purpose. Any unauthorized activity will be documented." My mom replied within minutes. "We would never. Nate is spiraling and looking for someone to blame." There it was again. The narrative. I'm unstable. Dylan is stressed. Pause. Meanwhile, Chloe had moved in with Dylan. My cousin told me casually, like it was weather. "They're serious," she said. "Your parents are helping them with a house." A house? My parents had told me for years they couldn't help me with a down payment because money is tight. But suddenly there was money. Beat. Human interjection. If you're watching this thinking, I'd go scorched earth, I get it. But I was exhausted. I didn't want revenge. I wanted my life back. So I built it. I focused on work. I got promoted from operations lead to regional manager. I started therapy quietly without telling my family. Pause. And therapy helped me name something. I wasn't grieving Chloe, not just her. I was grieving the fantasy that my parents would choose me when it mattered. Because they didn't. And they weren't going to. About a year later, I met Erin at a friend's game night. She laughed at my dumb joke about burnt pizza. She didn't pry. She didn't ask for my family story like it was entertainment. Beat. We took things slow. And for the first time, slow felt safe. Then, almost 3 years after everything happened, I got an email from my mom. Subject. "Can we talk? Just you and me." The message was short. "I miss you. I want my son back." I stared at it. Because if she missed me, why did she try to silence me? Why did she ask for Grandpa's watch? Why did she back Dylan even when it cost me my whole future? Mini cliffhanger. When someone says they miss you, ask yourself, do they miss you or do they miss control? I didn't reply right away. 2 days later, my dad called. This time, his voice was smaller. "Nate," he said, "we're in trouble." I sat down. "What kind of trouble?" He exhaled. "Financial." I didn't speak. Dad continued. "Dylan's house, there was a loan, and paperwork, and now the lender says..." He stopped. I said, "Says what?" Dad whispered, "Says your name is connected." My stomach went cold. Human interjection. This is the moment where your body does that thing, heat in your face, numb fingers, because your nervous system recognizes a pattern before your brain finishes the sentence. I asked, "What exactly do you mean my name is connected?" Dad said, "We need you to come over. Bring whatever documents you have." So I did. But I didn't go alone. I went with Miss Alvarez on speakerphone and Erin driving behind me. Not to fight, to witness. Pause. At my parents' kitchen table, same table where my mom used to preach family loyalty, my dad slid a stack of letters across to me. There were notices, requests for documents, and a big bold line on one page that made my throat tighten. Borrower. Nathan. My name. My mom started crying immediately. We didn't mean for this to happen. I looked at her and asked, calm, "Then why did it?" My dad's hands shook. "Dylan said you agreed." I turned to my mom. "Did you know?" She sobbed. "We thought it would be temporary." Mini cliffhanger. They didn't deny it. They just tried to make it sound small. Miss Alvarez's voice came through my phone, steady. "Nate, do not admit responsibility. Ask for copies of every signed page." I did. And my dad finally said the truth. "Dylan said if we told you, you'd ruin his life." I stared at him. He ruined mine first. I drove home that night in silence. Erin didn't push. She just said, softly, "You don't owe anyone your safety." And I needed to hear that. Pause. Because my parents' ask wasn't small. They wanted me to call the lender, explain, and and basically cooperate in cleaning up a mess where my name had been used without my consent. Miss Alvarez was blunt. If your signature was used without permission, we treat this like a dispute, not a family favor. So we did it the right way. We requested documents. We requested originals where possible. We created a written record of every communication. Beat. And as the paperwork came in, the pattern got clearer. There were forms with my name typed. There were signatures that looked like mine, but not quite. And there were timestamps from days I was out of town for work. Mini cliffhanger. The most comforting thing about receipts is also the saddest paper proves what people deny. My parents kept calling. Mom, please, Nate. We raised you. Dad, we'll make it right. Mom, Dylan is stressed. Chloe is stressed. The kid. And every time my mom brought up the child, I felt the old pressure trying to return. Human interjection. If your family uses the child to end arguments, you know how heavy that feels. Because saying no starts sounding like cruelty, even when it's self-protection. One afternoon, my mom showed up at my apartment building. I had moved since Chloe. New place, new life. But she got the address anyway, probably from a cousin. She stood outside the lobby door, holding a bag like she was delivering peace in plastic. I didn't let her in. I stepped outside and kept the conversation on the sidewalk. Mom said, "You look successful." I nodded. "I'm okay." She swallowed. "We need your help." I asked, "With what, specifically?" She hesitated. "Just talk to the lender. Say you meant well. Say you'll cooperate." I said, "Calm, Mom. If my name was used without my permission, I am not saying anything that makes it sound voluntary." Her face hardened. "So you're going to let us lose everything?" I looked at her. "You already let me lose my family." She flinched like she didn't expect me to say it out loud. Mini cliffhanger. People who rewrite your pain don't expect you to remember it clearly. She tried a different angle, softer. "Your brother made mistakes, but you're the good one." The good one. That phrase used to hook me. It used to make me feel chosen. Now it sounded like a trap. I said, "Being the good one doesn't mean being the one who pays." Mom's eyes filled again. "Chloe misses you." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was absurd. "I'm not her backup plan," I said, "and I'm not Dylan's exit." She whispered, angry now. "You're being cold." I answered very quietly, "I'm being clear." Then I walked back inside. That night, Dylan called from a blocked number. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "Nate, come on, man. Don't do this. We're family. I'll pay you back. I just need time." I saved it. Receipts, pause. Then he texted me from another number. "If you ruin Mom and Dad, you'll regret it." I screenshot it too. Mini cliffhanger. Threats are the moment guilt turns into something else, and once it's a threat, the conversation is over. Miss Alvarez filed a formal dispute with the lender and advised my parents to do the same on their side. My parents didn't want disputes. They wanted me to quietly fix it, because fixing it would mean I accepted responsibility. And if I accepted responsibility, Dylan stayed golden, beat. 2 weeks later, my dad called with a shaky voice. "The lender wants to talk to you," he said. I replied, "I will communicate in writing through counsel." Dad whispered, "They're saying we might have to sell the house." I paused. "Dad, why did you choose Dylan when this started?" He didn't answer. I asked again, calm, "Why?" And my dad finally said it. "Because," he whispered, "we were afraid he'd leave." I stared at the wall. They chose Dylan because they were afraid of losing him. And they were willing to lose me because I was predictable. Pause. Chloe's message sat on my phone like a weight. I didn't reply immediately. I asked Aaron, should I even respond? Aaron said, "Only if it serves your peace." So I responded with one line. "You can email. Keep it factual." Chloe emailed that night. She wrote that Dylan had been hiding bills, that he'd been promising my parents he'd handle it, that he'd been using anyone's identity he could access to keep things moving. Pause. No explicit details. No drama. Just a pattern. She also wrote one sentence that made my stomach turn. "Your mom told me Nate will come through. He always does." Human interjection. That sentence is the whole reason some families stay broken. They assign one person as the emergency exit and then act shocked when that person locks the door. I forwarded Chloe's email to Miss Alvarez. Then, I blocked Chloe again. Because I didn't need more narrative. I needed resolution. Here's what happened next calmly and realistically. The lender investigated the disputed paperwork. My parents were forced to deal with what they'd allowed. Dylan stopped answering calls when the consequences became real. Pause. And, yes, my parents lost. Not in a movie way. They lost the thing they'd protected above honesty, their illusion. They lost the ability to pretend Dylan was just misunderstood. They lost the comfort of believing I'd always clean it up. And, eventually, they lost the house they used as a stage for family values, because the numbers didn't care about speeches. They downsized into a small rental across town. My mom called me after the move, voice hollow. "No one is coming to help," she said. I kept my tone gentle. "I'm sorry you're hurting." She whispered, "Dylan doesn't answer." I didn't celebrate. I didn't say, "I told you so." I just said the truth. I hope he gets help, but I can't be the cost of his choices. Pause. A few months later, my dad emailed me a simple apology. Not perfect. Not poetic. "I'm sorry we chose wrong. We thought you'd be okay. We were wrong." I read it 3 times. And here's what I did because people always ask. I didn't run back into the old system. I didn't pretend it never happened. I replied with boundaries. "I appreciate the apology. If we have a relationship, it will be slow, honest, and separate from Dylan. No pressure, no guilt, no rewriting." And that was the line. That was the boundary that finally held. Human interjection. If you're watching this thinking boundaries are cruel, this is what boundaries really are. They're rules that prevent the same injury from happening again. Now, the real payoff my life. Aaron and I got engaged last year. Small moment, private, no big announcement. And when we planned our wedding, I didn't do the old thing where I invited people out of fear. I invited people who were safe. My parents weren't invited, not at first. Later, my dad asked politely if he could attend. I said, "We can talk about it in therapy, with a mediator." And for the first time, he agreed. No arguing, no guilt. Pause. Because the family that chose the golden child had finally learned something. When you keep betting against the reliable kid, eventually, the reliable kid stops being available. So, 4 years later, yes, they lost. They lost access. They lost control. They lost the story. And I gained something I didn't have before. A quiet life that doesn't require permission. I didn't win by getting louder. I won by getting clear. Beat. And by the time they wanted me back, my life didn't have a place for that old chaos anymore. One last thing I need to say. Pause. This story isn't really about who won. It's about who was able to hold on to the truth. Beat. Because in families that worship keeping the peace, peace usually means one person stays quiet and pays for everyone else's choices. Pause. I didn't pay. I didn't shout. I documented. And I drew a clean line that nobody could step over again. Beat. If you like calm, documentary-style stories with receipts and a clear payoff, subscribe. Because the next story starts with a sweet voicemail that made me laugh at first. And then I checked the timestamp and everything changed. Pause. Now tell me in the comments. If your family begged you to keep the peace, would you walk away or quietly collect receipts first?